Hi guys, welcome back, or welcome if you're new. Hannah here. Today I am going to walk you through part 2 of my deck collection. Today I'm going to show you all of my Oracle decks. I was waffling back and forth as to how to structure this video. Tarot is a scalpel, right? And this is not a unique thought, by the way. I've 100% stolen this from somebody, although I cannot source it exactly to who originally said that. But in my surgical spiritual toolkit, tarot is the scalpel, and then oracle decks are kind of like everything else. Something might be imaging, you know, um, something else might be like, I don't know, an EKG monitor. um, I use Oracle decks for very specific things, and how I use Oracle decks is, it's very dependent on the deck itself. So I've tried to organize each deck by categories. I've tried to categorize them into use, basically. So, if that sounds good to you, buckle in, grab a drink, and we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to hang out today. Well, that did not go the way I thought it would. That's okay. Note to self, don't try to be cool. Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. So, my first category are tarot decks that I am still learning. They might be newer in my collection, or maybe I've had them for a while, but they're a little harder for me to get to know. So we'll start with my most recent purchase, which is the Folklore Oracle by Giada Rose. Here it is. I did an unboxing on this actually here on the channel and kind of gave my unfiltered first impressions. And I do think it is a really gorgeous deck for self-exploration, shadow work, inner work, journaling. I'm going to use it in my practice for journaling specifically. Gorgeous card backs. Now, the title of the deck, I think, is a little deceiving. I personally bought it actually because I wanted to fill a gap in my collection. I don't really have any Folklore Oracle decks, and I was under the impression that you would see more cultural representation here, but it's very Eurocentric, very Western European, and very specifically, it deals more with the folklore, in my opinion, of England, Scotland, Ireland specifically. So if that is something that resonates with you, or if you have like really deep ancestral ties to that place, to those places rather, I think you will really enjoy this deck. I mean, the illustrations are just stunning. I think Giada Rose, it's clear, that she's very, very talented in that regard. But I do, again, I think that if you were just looking at the box and you were doing an impulse purchase the way that I did, just the vague language of it kind of makes you think that you're getting a more diverse, culturally expansive kind of deck, and that's unfortunately not really the case. But even still, it's a beautiful deck, and I'm really looking forward to working with it more. Next is the Dreamgate Oracle by Danielle Noel. So, full disclosure, I bought this one because I needed something to pair with the Moonchild Tarot, which I've had for years. And I enjoyed that deck, but I was never able to fully connect with it for some reason. And it was kind of disappointing because I bought it back whenever you had to pay Canadian shipping for it, and it cost me almost like $100, I think, or something like that back in 2018, 2019, whenever I bought it. And so even though the art was just gorgeous, I just wasn't able to fully connect with it. And I kept it in my collection because I did use it occasionally. And then I picked up the Dreamgate Oracle actually fairly recently because I do love Danielle's art style. I think it's beautiful. I love collage. And there's really not a deck quite like the Moonchild's, you know? I think that Danielle's guidebooks are always really thoughtful. I love the journaling questions and the thought and effort put into the messages, her card spreads, everything included in the book, really. It's very clear that she puts a lot of thought and time and energy into her decks. But long story short, I actually gifted the Moonchild to a very dear friend who was interested in learning tarot, and she just really connected with the Moonchild. And so I gave it to her. And so now I have the Dreamgate, which I got to pair with the Moonchild. And now it's just the Dreamgate, but that's okay. I'll be honest, I think part of the problem is that I don't really connect with cosmic energy in the way that Danielle seems to connect with it. Her decks are pretty like Star Seed, Akashic, and that's just something that I really don't know much about, to be completely honest with you. I do like to use this deck for creative work, and again, I haven't really used it that much. But it's the kind of deck that I almost want to just trim off the titles and make it my own, give it my own meanings. Yeah, that is the Dreamgate Oracle. Still trying to figure her out, still trying to figure out how she fits into my practice, but I do look forward to learning more about her and hearing what she has to say. Okay, this one might surprise you. This is the Animal Spirit Oracle from Kim Kranz. And you all know how much I love the Wild Unknown. But for some reason, I have just never been able to really connect with this one. I'm not someone who really connects with spirit animals as such. I don't really know that that is something that I can participate in ancestrally as again, as a very Western European, British, Scottish, Irish white woman. But I do find that this is a really nice deck to use for clients that do really connect with animal energy in that way. I think if you're looking to call in the energy of some sort of animal for support, this is a great one. And I am glad that I have it in my collection, just because I am a Kim Kranz fangirl. I love her art. You know, I love the black and white, intentional pops of color. If you watched my tarot collection video, you know how I feel about that. And it is a very pretty deck. So, yeah, that is the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit Oracle. All right, so this is the Divine Muses by Marie Bento. I have had this one for a long time too, and I do use it, but I'm still learning it. So it's one of those oracle decks that kind of has its own divination system attached to it, which I am still learning, and it's kind of a lot. I won't lie to you. I bought it because I really love decks that use vintage photography, vintage ephemera. We do a lot of ancestor work over here, and I find that this is a great oracle deck to kind of tap into that energy. The thing with this deck is that you get these Muse cards, which is, you know, which is where the title comes from. We have, so you can see here in the back, I've got all of the cards that I usually actually pull out before I do a reading. So the Muse of Music, Astrology, Dance, Comedy, Hymns, Eloquence, Poetry with Emily Dickinson there, Tragedy, Art, History, a bunch of muses. And the idea is that you can, you know, call on these muses to help you with something that you are working on as a creative project, which is super cool. But I find that I just don't really use them like that. So I usually pull those muses out, or I will hand select a muse if I have a specific inquiry around something that I'm working on. And then we also have these totems as well. And so this is where, you know, the divination aspect comes into it, I think. It's a whole system that probably wouldn't be that complicated if I could actually like take the time to sit down with it and really, really study this deck. But for some reason, in the entire time that I've had it, like, I just haven't really had a chance to do that. But with that being said, I do find that the more kind of traditional oracle cards that aren't muses or elemental energies, I think it reads really well. Again, great for shadow work, great for ancestor work. And it's a good clarifier. But I do find that, like, if I don't pull out the muse cards first, I'm trying to clarify a reading, the muse of art will like pop out or something. And I won't lie, for me as a reader, it is kind of more difficult for me to connect with that in a traditional tarot reading. So it's kind of like I try to clarify, and then if I pull out a muse or a totem, I'm kind of left with more questions than answers. So that's why I pull them out. Yeah, that is the Divine Muses Oracle. And I think it's a great one, even though she's still kind of a mystery to me. Okay, next we're going to get into the oracle decks that I do use fairly often. These are the decks that have more of a specific use or a special kind of mood that I have to have on me to want to use them. So we have the Botanical Inspirations Oracle by Lynn Araujo. This is a really cute little deck that I've had around for a little bit, and I didn't really use that much until recently. But it is fully based on Victorian flower language. So it comes with this little accordion folding thing that kind of gives you the general idea of what each flower meant in, you know, Victorian flower code. And then you also get an actual like in-depth guidebook with a message, which is super cool. But you get the flower itself. And then underneath in script here, you've got the Latin name if it has one. You have the meaning in flower language and a little quote to go with it. So that's pretty neat. Actually, now that I think about it, I feel kind of inspired to do a little collective pull with this one really quick. So it must have something that it wants to say. Take a deep breath if you want to participate in this. Think of a situation that you want some guidance or clarity on. Okay. And we have hydrangea. Thankfulness for understanding. Before we can forgive one another, we have to understand one another. Emma Goldman. All right, that's a message from the Botanical Inspirations Oracle, guys. Super cute little deck, great for clarifying in readings. I think it's kind of slept on. If you enjoy Victorian imagery, you'll probably like this one. Okay. Okay, this one's kind of funny. This is Crystals the Stone Deck by Andrew Smart, photographs by Jason Wick. But this is more of a collector's deck for me. I feel like I'm opening like a new iPhone every time I use this, just with the way that the guidebook is. But essentially, with this deck, look at how it's rainbow. You have rainbow backs here with the stone and what it is used for, like in spiritual spaces. And then on the front, you've actually got the stone itself. I don't really use this deck for anything except just like looking at it, or it's actually kind of a nice little quick reference for a stone. Probably my favorite way to use it is if I want to spend money on a crystal or a fancy rock, but I don't know exactly what rock I want to use or what I like need in my life right now. And so this is a great deck to have on hand if you just shuffle and pull a card, and there you go. And then I'm on Etsy wasting more money. But yeah, there's Labradorite. I love Labradorite. Super cool little deck, really nifty. Again, it's not one that I use often, but it's nice to have on hand. And it's really gorgeous. I love that the backs are rainbow. It doesn't really like fan out very well, or I'd show you, but trust, it looks really cool. Yeah, that is Crystals the Stone Deck. All right, the next one is the Amenti Oracle. And I don't have the box with me right here at the moment. And the poor little box that it came in is beat half to death. But I really love this one because it is based on the principles of Mott and the Emerald Tablets. And I'm pretty sure a lot of these, or most, like the basis of this deck, the prompts, the captions, the cards themselves are based on the principles found in the Egyptian Book of the Dead. How to, live a just life, how to live a moral life according to that belief system. This is honestly, for a mass market deck, I think it's a really great one. I love the art, how it kind of bridges the gap between modernity and Art Deco and ancient Egyptian art. I love that it's not all very like love, light, and rainbows. I think it will check you morally. Like if you are acting out of alignment with righteousness, if you are acting out of alignment with Mott, then it will kind of it'll kind of spank you a little bit. So, you know, this is a great deck to kind of use in a ritual sense, you know, something to pull in the morning. It's almost like devotional in a way. It is an affirmation deck, but it's not, like I said, it's not all love and light and rainbows. It's a kind of affirmation deck that really makes you want to self-examine a little bit. And that's certainly something that we all need. Yeah, that is the Amenti Oracle. I really enjoy that one. Next up, we have the Literary Witches Oracle. This one is a lot of fun. So it's kind of Lenormand-ish in that it isn't like the kind of oracle deck that I would necessarily use for clarifying with tarot. I like to use this one as a divination system in its own right. So what you get 70 cards, 30. I want to double check myself here. You have witches cards, and so these are female authors who all represent something, some kind of concept. I view them as like the major arcana in this deck. And then we have the witches materials, which I see more so as like the minors. And so they are more like, these cards are more like divinatory in the classic sense. And I'll kind of give you an example reading here. It's very literal, which is why I kind of associate it with Lenormand cards. Let me see if I can find those exact cards that I pulled. Give me just a moment. So this was a reading I did for myself a few weeks ago with this deck. So I pulled Gertrude Stein, and the meaning for this card is perspective. So gaining a new perspective, seeing something in a new light. Wildflowers means romance. And then teacup here means rest, respite, a break, something like that. And what's fascinating is that the night before I did this pull, my husband and I had a really long conversation with each other about what was going on at work, at home, you know, the things that, things that were going on in our day-to-day life that we hadn't really had time to talk about because life has been so busy lately. And it was a really clarifying conversation for both of us. And I think we both left that conversation with a new perspective on what we are going through, what we're both dealing with in the day-to-day. It was kind of like just like a restored communication. And again, we gained perspective. And I want to be clear, this wasn't like an argument or something. This was just like one of those conversations that kind of organically arose out of, like just a really frustrating day at work for him. So that we had that conversation. And then the morning that I pulled these cards, he came home and he brought me flowers. And what's crazy is that he brought me flowers as I was having like my mid-morning tea break. Like, it is that literal. It's kind of spooky how literal it can be. And again, just that literal nature of it is what makes me think of Lenormand. So I do love to use this deck for just pure divination. I think it's a really fun one. I'm actually really excited to use this one in the autumn. I think it's just a great autumnal deck with the tones, with the colors. Just very earthy, kind of dark, a little spooky. Yeah, that is the Literary Witches Oracle. This one's a favorite. All right, next is the Lost Oracle by Fiona Horn. This is a newer deck, but I absolutely love it. I'm including it in this section simply because to me it feels very autumnal. I'm really excited to work with it as it gets a little colder outside. I still have the little binding paper on it because I think it just looks so cool. The cards are matte and beautiful. I love how they feel in the hand. But this is 100% a witch deck. It is very old world. It's petrichor. It is taking a walk in the woods in October. It's leaves crunching under your feet. It's dancing around a bonfire naked. It's the crucible. It's all of the things that we think whenever we think witch in the most classic sense. It is a beautiful clarifier. It's beautiful for shadow work, for inner work, for journaling. The illustrations are just fab. And I really like Fiona Horn. I have another deck coming up that I really, really cherish. And I have a feeling that eventually this deck might make its way to the very top favorites. I'm still working with her. I'm excited to work with her in her season. It's just very much like a dark half of the year kind of vibe. But the messages that come through are just incredibly profound. And I have a feeling too that it would probably be good for ancestor work as well, connecting with ancestors maybe who were misunderstood in lifetimes, in life rather, or those black sheep ancestors, or even the matriarchal lineage from like thousands of years ago that's just embedded in our DNA. So yeah, that is the Lost Oracle by Fiona Horn. She's gorgeous. She packs a punch. And she's edged in black. The next category, they are kind of a relic in my practice, but I do feel like I need to show them to you. These are what I would call my goddess decks. I have 3 of them. So the first one is the Goddess Oracle. This is another one that I've had for a long time. I have edged, or not edged, I have cut them. I'll probably edge them in black. I do think this is a beautiful deck if you are looking to connect with a specific goddess energy, or if you are wanting to connect with that, sacred feminine. If you're doing work involving healing, sacred femininity, divine feminine. I do find that I have to be careful working with sacred feminine because it's very easy for me to get wrapped up in repackaged Christianity with that kind of thing. So I have to be very clear with myself when I approach any kind of goddess work, like, am I wanting to tap into this energy to heal the feminine wound, or am I using it to reinforce the patriarchy? Probably another video there. There is nudity in this deck. I need to be very careful. There is like tits out and even more out, which I'm excited about personally, but YouTube is not. I love that this deck shows these goddesses in all forms, in all stages of life, body shapes. And I do like that there is a variety of cultural representation. And the guidebook is pretty nice. It does have, sorry, I have to flip Yamiya over. Unfortunately, sorry. The guidebook goes into myths of note and divinatory meaning for each. So that's the Goddess Oracle. That's probably my favorite of this bunch, I would say. All right, next is the Divine Feminine Oracle by Megan Watterson. I am a big fan of Megan Watterson's work on Mary Magdalene. Her book about Thecla is on my TBR. I'm really excited to get into it. This is one of the first Oracle decks that I purchased. As you all know, I deconstructed from Christianity about a decade ago, or rather, I began the process. I think deconstruction is a constant process, but I really appreciated this deck at that time. It was a great source of comfort for me. I haven't used it in a while, but it means a lot. I have edged it in gold and it's kind of faded where I've used it so much. First thing I do want to address, there are several depictions of goddesses, saints, female spiritual authorities, energies from different cultures other than Europe who are unfortunately a little whitewashed in this deck, at least in their depictions. I do think that Megan Watterson in her text is very respectful of their stories and what they represent, but the art itself, I think, is very lacking. But with that being said, I do think that this is a great deck to use if you are seeking empowerment, if you're seeking healing, if there is a specific wound that you want to address, this is a great deck to use if you want to call on some support. And I do really love this deck because for me, growing up fundamentalist Baptist, I felt very, I often felt disillusioned and angry at how women in the Bible were represented, or misrepresented rather. Because my reading of the biblical text, I came to very different conclusions than my pastors and other spiritual authorities in my life. And this deck kind of felt like vindication almost in addressing that. And also, you know, Megan Watterson's work in general has been very important on my spiritual journey. And with that being said, too, like I said with the other Goddess Oracle, for me, I have to be careful how I approach Divine Feminine, how I'd approach, figures like Mary Magdalene and the saints. I have to be careful that I'm not just using that as an excuse to slip back into old patterns, and that I am just working with these energies, with these spirits, with these beings, whatever, in a new way, in my new way. Yeah, that is the Divine Feminine Oracle by Megan Watterson. I don't think it's for everybody, but it does hold a very special place in my heart. All right, this one is one that I do not use anymore. It is a relic. And I'll tell you why. This is the Goddess Guidance Oracle by Doreen Virtue. As you all know, Doreen is now born again MAGA, but guess what? I have a piece of her past right here. You can't escape, Doreen. You can't. Sorry, girl. Like I said, I don't really use this deck for anything other than look what I've got, kind of. It's just kind of a collector's piece at this point. But it does have a really kind of broad array of goddesses from different cultures. It is a little love and light. It's a little rainbows and sunshine. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the only Doreen Virtue deck I bought before she converted, but I think a lot of her decks were like that, and I would argue that sometimes if a creator leans a little too much into love and light, probably shouldn't be that much of a surprise, I guess, whenever they sell out. And like, yes, we're all on our own journey, right? But as someone who's deconstructed, as someone who, you know, I don't know. I don't understand it myself. But yeah, that is the Goddess Guidance Oracle by Doreen Virtue. I will not linger too long. Again, it's more of a curiosity in my collection at this point. Okay, we have finally reached the last section of this video. These decks are my workhorses. They are the ones that I use the most frequently. They are my favorites, and I am really excited to share them with you all. First up, we have the Wild Unknown Archetypes Oracle. I don't know what I can say about this deck that hasn't been said by many, many creators before, but it is such a powerful deck. If you use archetypes in any capacity, which I think most witches, most tarot readers do, obviously, this is one that you have to have it. It is so good for understanding the self, understanding a client and client readings. It is great for picking up on themes, recurring themes. The guidebook is excellent. One of my favorite ways to use it in my personal practice, in my journaling practice with self-work, it's a very simple 3-card spread. And it's just a take on past, present, future. I'm going to shuffle really quick. Whoa. And so the spread, essentially, it's who I was, who I am, who I'm becoming. So just for a little sample read here. Whoever this is for, in the past, you were the shapeshifter. Presently, you are the box, and you are becoming the mountain. So perhaps in the past, you felt that you needed to be a lot of different things for a lot of different people. You took on different identities whenever you needed to keep yourself safe, to keep others safe. Whatever that means. Maybe you were protecting yourself, your feelings, your emotions. It could be even something more sinister than that. It could be survival, right? Right now you are in a place of bringing the structure back to who you are. You are having to set up boundaries to keep yourself from shifting again. um, you are on a journey right now to become who you truly are without the noise of others, without the influence of others. You are becoming the mountain, right? You are able to eventually, from the structure that you've built for yourself, you are going to be able to stand tall. You're going to be able to stand firm in who you are and what you believe. And you're bringing in an era of stability for yourself. But right now, you know, it's so important that you keep those boundaries on lock. Yeah, so like, I mean, it's just kind of a great deck. It reads so easily, and I don't have the guidebook on me, but it's just so easy. It's so easy to read and just tap into. The messages just come so intuitively. And by the way, if you're watching that and that mini reading worked for you, please take it. And if not, ignore it. But yeah, that's the Archetypes Oracle, and you can use it for just about anything. This is the Wisdom of the Oracle by Colette Baron-Reid. This one surprised me. I bought it because it's kind of a classic deck, and I had never owned a Colette Baron-Reid deck before. This is actually the only deck of hers that I own, but I really, really love this deck. It is so zany and surreal. The only way that I can describe it is like, I feel like I'm entering that Jim Henson movie, The Mirror Mask, if you're familiar. It's a little more lighthearted than that movie, but it's just very surreal. It's like a carnival. It's like you're going to go see a mystic or a fortune teller or an oracle in a Jim Henson movie, and the mystic is like your great maiden aunt, and that great maiden aunt happens to be Carol Channing. I don't know how else to describe it. It is just so fun, and it's like shockingly deep. It's shockingly accurate. I use it for clarification all the damn time. I use it for journaling all the damn time. It works so well with tarot. And what I do love about this deck, I don't know if the rest of her decks do this, but each card you are given like a general meaning, keywords, a relationship message, a prosperity message, and a protection message, which is, I think, how you read it if it's reversed. So not only is it great to read intuitively without the guidebook, but the guidebook is excellent to use if you want to go deeper with it. So I really can't recommend this one enough. I actually want to buy the pocket edition of it. To be fair, like all of these like top 5 Oracle decks that I'm showing you, like the Wild Unknown, Archetypes, this one, all the others, I would take a pocket edition in a heartbeat because I use them that much. But yes, that is the Wisdom of the Oracle by Colette Baron-Reid. I love her very much. Okay, we're getting into like the top 3, and it's really hard to like rank these. I don't think I can rank them exactly. Just know that they are all 3 up there together. This first one is the Roots and Wings Oracle. This deck is very special to me. The artist lives in Irwin, Tennessee, and I believe whenever I bought this deck, she created it in Banner Elk, which is where like pretty much all of my family is from. Or Banner Elk, North Carolina, rather, sorry. It is the most sweet, loving deck. It feels like a hug from my family, from my ancestors. from the earth, from the Appalachian Mountains. It's simple, but it is so beautiful. I love using this deck as a clarifier. I love using it to, sorry, there's a hair. I love using it to connect with ancestors, again, connecting with the earth. I love using it to do inner work. I find that it's especially good at clarifying tarot decks that are a little more cerebral in nature. So like think the Lion Strider, the Fountain Tarot. This is an excellent deck to kind of ground those messages and kind of bring them back to earth if you need to clarify messages like that. It has that, I don't know if this is rose petal finish, but it kind of has that feel to it. I don't actually know what different cardstock is called, but I really love it. It's just so soft to the touch. And you can really tell that the artist just loves this place. It really does feel like home to me. And that is why this deck will be with me forever until the day that I die. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. All right, the next deck. This is the Magick of You Oracle by Fiona Horn. If you follow me on Instagram, this probably isn't shocking to you. I love this deck. It is a heavy hitter for me. I use it in readings all the time as a final send-off, as a final message, as a blessing for others. It is so wonderful to journal with. It's been very helpful for me in my deconstruction journey. It's been wonderful working with like self-esteem, with the ego. It really challenges you to go deep and to understand why you are the way that you are. It is probably like my top shadow deck. Well, it is. It is my top deck to use for shadow work. The art is gorgeous. The guidebook is very specific, beautifully written, gives you so much to think about. You can use it for everything, for clarification, for divination, for meditation. This is a card that I find comes up a lot in readings for people. How can you feed others when your own table is empty? I think collectively we're all really exhausted these days. Yeah, that is the Magick of You Oracle by Fiona Horn. I think I would be lost without it. Okay, we now have our final deck today. This one is my baby. I do feel like I can confidently say it is my favorite Oracle deck to date. I won't say of all time, but I will say it is my favorite tarot deck of all time. Not tarot deck, sorry, my favorite Oracle deck of all time to date. And it is Anatorian's Oracle of Echoes. This deck is one that I've had for several years now. It was one of my first indie Oracle decks that I purchased on Etsy. And it is such a joy to work with, truly. Obviously, the art is stunning. It is darkly effervescent. I love the use of color. I love the messages that come through. It is amazing for divinatory work, for clarifying readings. It offers support. It gives warnings. It is so good for understanding the uglier parts of yourself, I think, if you use the deck in that way. It's the kind of deck where you can go as deep or as surface level as you want with it. I just find that it's so versatile and it pairs so well with so many different decks, and chances are if you have gotten a reading from me, I have used the Oracle of Echoes in your reading. It's just a workhorse for me. It is a do-it-all kind of gal. It doesn't hold your hand. I mean, it can. It will offer a hand whenever you really need it, but if you want a pat on the back and you don't deserve one, it's not going to give it to you. So if you work with it, be prepared to, really go deep with it, because that's what it asks of you. But yeah, I could go on about it. It is really something special. I'm so grateful to have it with me, and it will always have a place on my shelf. But yeah, that is the Oracle of Echoes by the wonderful, immaculate, legendary Anatorian. And with that, we have reached the end of my Oracle deck collection, guys. Please tell me what you think. If you own any of these decks and you disagree with me, I want to hear about it in the comments. Or if you just want to hang out and talk tarot, Oracle decks, that's great too. You can catch me over on Instagram. I post a lot of spreads. I post personal pulls, all that good stuff. So that is down in that is down in the description. I look forward to seeing you all next time. I don't know what I'm going to be doing next on this channel, but hopefully you all stick around to see it. Okay. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. I'm sending you all my love. Goodbye.